take on number 13 Oregon Friday in the 9th annual Pac-12 championship game, 8 Eastern on ABC and, of course, on the ESPN app. Here it is, folks. The latest college football playoff rankings have been released. The top four look like this. Ohio State, LSU, Clemson, Georgia, Utah, and Oklahoma are in the 5th and 6th spot, respectively. As the conference championships are determined this weekend, Clemson may be one of the unbeatens that can least afford a loss. That talking point has not been lost on Tigers coach Dabo Swinney or our Paul Feinbaum.
If we lose this game, they're going to kick us out. They don't want us in there anyway.
Lawrence off play action, takes a shot downfield. It's a touchdown. Clemson improves to 12-0, 27 straight wins for Dabo Swinney and the Tigers.
Georgia loses to this very same team, and the very next day it's how do we keep Georgia in it? It's the dadgummest thing. They can't vote us out. We got to go 30-0. We don't play nobody.
I think Dabo Swinney is the most annoying winner in all of sports. The guy just can't keep his trap shut.
One of the best lessons I've learned is you don't worry about criticism from people that you wouldn't seek advice from.
Somebody just give the man a pacifier, send him to timeout, and we'll check in with him on December 28th when he finally plays a legitimate team during this entire college football season.
I'd like some timeout. I'd like to take a nap. I had Mrs. Puckett in the first grade. You'd walk into school with your lunchbox, had the Happy Days lunchbox, and had with my bologna sandwich and had a mat. We should have adult timeout time. I never had a pacifier, though, so I don't know how that'd work out.
Well, look what the cat drug in. David Pollack and the troublemaker, Paul Feinbaum.
At least it's not me. At least it's not me, the troublemaker.
What's the matter with you? Why are you talking about Dabo Swinney like that?
Dabo's not concerned.
I'm concerned for him. It was very disrespectful, Paul Feinbaum. I would remind you that the man has won 27 straight, that he is the reigning defending national champion, that since 2015, his record is 67-4.
Oh, my goodness.
Paul, listen, it's not his fault.
I've never heard him criticize anyone.
Here's my whole point. Here's my whole point coming to the defense of my man Dabo Swinney.
Wait to hear that.
I got to ask this question. Is it his fault that he's in the ACC? Is it his fault?
Stephen, I never said. All I said was that he's a crybaby.
A crybaby?
That's all I said.
No, you said he needs a pacifier.
But Paul,
I think he needs one too, by the way.
Paul's my man. I'm going to eat it because that's my man, Paul. But I'm just saying, it's Dabo Swinney here. He is the reigning defending national champion. He does beat everybody in front of him. He did smoke Notre Dame in the college football semifinal. He smoked Alabama. He didn't beat them. Smoked Alabama in the national championship game.
I don't want to hear that.
Don't you have to defer to some degree with what you've seen him do when he has faced competition?
I realize I'm not the host, but could you explain to Stephen A. Smith the way college football works? That it's not like British royalty, that it goes from generation to generation, that each year supposedly is new, David?
Yeah, it's supposedly new, but it looks the same for Alabama or for Clemson.
It does.
It looks exactly. They're dominating everybody they play. Listen, here's the thing. I love Dabo Swinney. He's one of my favorite coaches in all of college football. I will admit, I don't react ever like you do, but I had a similar reaction of Dabo. Dabo has the easiest job in college football. Of all these top jobs, he has the easiest. You know why? Because the media gives all the fodder he needs. Your team's not good enough. Saban has to psychologically make his players believe they're not the favorites because they're told how great they are. Ohio State told how great they are. Joe Burrow, how great they are. Clemson, they're kind of just eking by. Dabo's got it made for him. All they got to do is, hey, listen to him. Clemson's not good enough.
Isn't that basically what he's doing by saying what he says at the press conferences? That's what he's doing,
and by the way, let's not let him off the hook. The ACC sucks.
That's not his fault.
Can we get to that? Can we get to the topic at hand? Because obviously Clemson plays Virginia on Saturday. Shout out to Virginia.
Plenty of tickets available.
No, but that program, Paul, don't be disrespectful. Virginia came a long way, right? They were 2-10 not that long ago, Stephen A., should Clemson make the playoff even if they lost?
No, I will concede even in the midst of this conversation. If they don't win, if they don't beat Virginia, sure, you don't deserve it because, again, there's something to be said about if you lose. I'm saying this. I was sitting in front of a man weeks ago that was like, even if they went undefeated, a legitimate argument could be made. They didn't belong in the top four.
Who said that?
Him. Paul Feinbaum. He said that. And what my argument was that, David, what my argument was is simple. You're the reigning defending national champion, and you beat everyone in front of you.
No.
You have to have the right.
But I'll take
to
it a
defend
step
your
further
crown.
than that.
That's
If
all I
they
was
do
trying
lose
to say.
to Virginia, as long as LSU or Ohio State also has a loss, like let's say you got a couple of upsets, which is not unheard of in college football, I would still say put Clemson in because I don't care what the rules are, Paul. Now that there's a playoff, if you're talking about like a win can't be a loss. Well, you beat North Carolina by 1 point. Did you win or did you lose? You won. You can't win 28 straight games, including whipping. I'm talking about beating the brakes off Alabama in the national title game.
Right, sure.
And then because of one loss in the conference championship, one loss, you're saying that even though there are other one-loss teams, you're out. I think the fact that you won the national title should be taken into consideration.
I mean, you would have to compare the losses, would you not? I mean, you're talking about LSU, which would lose to a Georgia team that's been in the top 4 all year long. You're talking about Ohio
State.
State.
Higher if they won.
Yeah, I think
okay, let me amend that. Those two should be LSU and Ohio State should be in regardless.
Okay.
They're probably in
LSU and
regardless of a
Ohio,
loss.
Alabama, no.
Well, you got Utah, you got Oklahoma, and you got Baylor.
That
Right.
fourth
So
spot
let me
is
change
up for
the
grabs.
upsets.
Yeah.
One of those teams has to lose, and then if Clemson had a loss, they should also be in.
Listen, I agree with Stephen A. To me, at some point when you have a legitimate game, and this is their most legitimate game of the year, they're playing for a championship, which matters to the college football playoff committee, and you lay an egg. No, you don't deserve to be in. That's ridiculous.
Before you chime in, I will say this. Let me just say this last part, then I'll leave it to the experts. Here's my deal. You know, by virtue of you being Dabo Swinney and complaining about what you've been complaining about, what they're trying to do to you. In other words, leave you out on the outside looking in. So knowing that and knowing that you can't lose to Virginia because that will add fodder to everything everybody's been saying, right? To me, knowing what's at stake, you cannot lose this game. That much I will say. I don't think it's fair, but you know what the situation is. Handle it. And I believe Clemson will.
But see, I don't look at Clemson as getting slighted. If we're putting Clemson, LSU, and Ohio State together, I think they're very comparable. I think they're all 3 really good teams. Mm-hmm. Those other 2 teams have great resumes. They've got 4 and 3 top 25 wins. They deserve to be ahead of Clemson.
Agreed.
Okay, 1 loss Clemson, 1 loss Oklahoma. You're telling me Oklahoma's better than Clemson?
I agree, but educate me.
Right.
They're not.
Right.
They still should be in, I think.
But David,
Right. And
educate
part of
me. Is
that's
there
because of
anything
what
that
happened
Clemson
last
could have
year and
done
this year.
to elevate its schedule? Is
No.
there anything
You love the
No.
last
Say, what is he
conversation.
supposed to do?
There's nothing they could have done, but that doesn't mean I penalize Ohio State or LSU for playing good teams.
Gotcha.
Clemson doesn't deserve credit for not playing great teams. It's not their fault, no.
But is it completely not? One thing I kind of agree with is if you're in a weak conference, could you schedule an out-of-conference game that might that's not just a gimme?
By the way, can we talk about that real quick? Because they have 2 SEC teams on their out-of-conference schedule.
They do.
A&M,
Clemson. Right.
and South Carolina.
You can't predict 3 years out or whatever.
24-10 win over Texas A&M. LSU just annihilated them.
Yeah, but I'll defend Clemson for once. I mean, scheduling a home-and-home with A&M is a good scheduling
Absolutely.
move.
Right.
Okay,
So you're holding against them the fact that teams weren't ranked as you may have predicted they might be ranked.
We're holding their conference against them because it's such a weak conference. Bobby Bowden made a living in the 90s beating up the same teams.
It's the same now.
Yeah,
It's
he had
exactly
one
what it
game
used
every
to be.
year, Clemson.
Yeah. And Florida State being so down and being so out like that, we at least had that rivalry every year when Jimbo Fisher was there. You're like, we could point to that game where elite athletes were going to go at it. Now you don't even
I
have
want to
that.
ask you about your Georgia Bulldogs. Did they deserve to keep that 4 spot?
Yeah. I mean, again, for what they've accomplished on the field, they have a horrible loss. Nobody's going to take that away. But everybody they're competing against also has a horrible loss. Utah lost to USC, their 3rd-string quarterback. I mean, if you want to go down, Oklahoma lost to Kansas State, they're not in the rankings. So they've beaten 3 top 25 teams. They've beaten Notre Dame. They've beaten Florida. They've beaten Auburn. They have a great resume. They go beat LSU, but they're in. They control their own destiny. It really doesn't matter.
So we come back to Dabo, and we ask the simple question. When you take into account the fact that he can't control his schedule, he can't control the fact that he's in the ACC conference, okay? But he is 67-4. He's on a 27-game winning streak, and he's the reigning defending national champion.
Do we
not look at that and say, excuse me, they got a right to defend their crown if they're undefeated?
And they're going to have that right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You and Dabo have the same problem. You can't control your mouth.
Wow, I would argue that Paul might be in that. Hold on, can you say y'all three? Can you say y'all three?
Exactly, and how you excluding yourself
I'm
from
about
that
to say.
conversation.
Your
And
nickname
you're on
is
that
Mouth of the
Only
South.
one of the three of you have
Your
mouth in the
nickname
nickname.
has the word mouth in
The
it.
nerve of it, right? The nerve of it. We brothers for a reason, my man. You're in the same boat. Come on now.
All right. Let's pay some bills.
That's right.
Good times, guys. This was
We
a
get
lot
to
of
pay
fun.
him.
You're going to be back with us. He's already paid. Much more to come on First Take with the NFL playoffs around the corner. Who's the most important player in the AFC? Mahomes, Lamar, or Deshaun? We'll debate that next. It's First Take.
We have a must-see First Take coming on Thursday. Which Cowboys team shows up on Thursday Night Football in Chicago? Plus, which AFC East contender is more likely to fall at home on Sunday? And will Lamar Jackson struggle against the Bills D in Buffalo? Don't miss it tomorrow, right here on First Take.